Fran. Oh, look at that. How the film industry works.
Alright, let's try this again.
Process through the X-Men.
Oh, look at that. We live again. We're back. We made it work this time. Let's see if it comes up. Ooh, it works.
All right, look at that. Oh, nice. Nice.
Hilarious.
Hilarious. Hilarious. Who? What? What's going on? I can't hear me. You should be able to hear me.
What?
I mean, I'm deaf. I think I went deaf. Is that him?
Hold on.
You should be one.
I am the number one. Hello? Talk me your thing. Talk me your thing. I got me.
What do you have the mixer on? Hello?
Hello?
Hello.
Ooh.
Hi. Hey, one
Good
second.
job. Good job. Good job.
Why do I gotta keep talking?
I can hear you.
Oh my god. Why do you want to listen to me?
Well,
Anyway.
make communication.
Hello? Oh god, that feels so much better. There we go. Phone next to me. I don't think it's my phone at all. It's really your phone.
You're welcome. Alright, let's get
Is it also this near your computer, maybe? Oh, I wanted to hook up directly to the internet. Give me a second.
Alright, wait.
While I'm doing this, can you do me a favor? Can you share the live link for the YouTube?
I can.
But say something like, say something that's more about us than that.
He's on a podcast.
Don't say, hey, check us out.
I'm not. But I made my eyeballs all wonky.
You know what you could write? You go, Tom schools me in the film industry. I swear he doesn't make this stuff up. Is Tom schooling me right now in the film industry?
Got that. We copy that. Le copy. Je suis.
Je suis.
Je suis. Let me do it. Hey, Thomas.
What?
Why is it that my microphone has a beard and yours doesn't?
You have to fake your manhood and I don't.
Wait, what?
Lawyer. Can you see my blue pants? Can you see my blue shorts? Can you see my blue pants? You like that? Look, you don't have to listen to the fucking echo.
Oh, look at that.
Why is your mic all the way up?
Because mine
Wow,
is not as powerful as yours.
I'll agree with that.
Because if you look at this, we're at like the same level.
What is that noise?
My phone being next
Oh, yeah, we're gonna have to fix that.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to fix that.
Please hold. I'm a little better.
I'm the moon, the meda. Look, I fixed the weird thing.
Which weird thing?
The thing that we were dealing with.
Oh yeah, that thing. Oh.
There was no variable change.
You sure?
I know.
Listen.
By the way, that's 90% of the arguments that JD and I get into. It's he's absolute in his decision making.
I'm very Sith-like in the fact that I do have absolutes, but also like a Jedi because it's either good or bad.
Yeah, well, we know what's good and we know what's bad. There, let's see.
Yeah, like the original trilogy is good. The new trilogy.
Oh yeah, 1, 2, 3 is good.
No, I mean 4, 5, 6.
No, 1, 2, 3 is. You ever see those TikToks where they're saying things like that, but then like the guys like beat them up? They're like, what? Or like they're watching what do they watch? Lord of the Rings, and someone's like, "Oh man, I love Game of Thrones."
Oh my god, Irk me.
Look at. Oh, we use the word irk. It's actually one of my favorite words.
Irk?
Yeah. Who likes to be irked?
I'm singing
In the rain.
No, I don't sing.
In the rain.
Thomas mentioned me in a story.
Where?
Oh no, let's go on to Facebook. La Face
Le fist, le boo. We're about to start the show.
What is
In
it?
a little bit, we're gonna start the show.
I don't.
Share.
Oh no, apparently I can't type. I don't make this stuff. Uh-oh. Stuff. What are we calling this?
What do you know? I told you earlier.
Yeah, but I gotta type it again. It's a long sentence. I have the memory of a soap dish.
Okay. Right, I think Tom is trying to explain to me how the business works by using the X-Men franchise, which is weird because I didn't even think there was a franchise beyond 2.
Or a franchise other than McDonald's.
But, arguing with him, he's telling me he doesn't make this stuff up.
I don't make stuff up. Eh. There's no W, I'm exploring.
What? JD, do you love my ways?
I do. Every day.
I love your ways.
Behind the streets. See, this is the exciting part where we get to, start going live and sharing all this stuff. I need a thing.
Why do you need that?
Because I gotta put it on so people can look at your beautiful face. Here we go. You ready?
All right, we're about to start the show. Is it recording by the way over there?
What?
Was I just talking out my hoo-ha?
I mean, probably. Were you talking out of your hoo-ha?
I don't know.
Starting the live video.
Was that Facebook?
It is Facebook.
Yeah.
And we're not blocking Twitch. Good. Woohoo! Teamwork.
Blocking people from coming to YouTube though.
I can go off of the Facebook.
Nah, you do whatever you want. I remember. I don't argue, and I'm trying to have this to be a cooperative, creative effort.
Well, it's always cooperative.
Yeah, I know. I just want you to have a say. I want you to feel like your input matters.
I mean, sometimes it does.
It always matters. Just sometimes it's 100%.
Crapsies. What did we do last time? What did we do last time? Where are those plugs? I'll figure it out. When the time comes. Alrighty. Whoa, look at that.
Hey,
Hey,
listen. All right.
listen.
Look, I'm telling you, I don't make this stuff up. Is it recording?
It is not.
Jesus. Always holding me back.
Listen.
Oh, wait.
We're doing a test. This is a test. We're doing a test.
I don't care. Hit the record over there, buddy. We got to start the podcast. What's going on? Is it working?
It is. It's working.
Do a test.
Hold on. They're doing a test.
All right. Did you
All right.
test it?
All right. We're pausing.
Oh.
Ready? Ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
That sounds good.
It's good. Let's start it.
All right. You ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Click.
Hey, man, I don't make this stuff up. No, seriously, JD. I don't make this stuff up about the film industry. And I want you to understand that today's show, we're going to talk about how the film industry works while discussing the X-Men franchise, which I don't think is the greatest franchise ever. Well, excluding all the cartoons and the amazing cartoons, we're going to be just talking about the film franchise. And also, I would like to point out that there's a lot of factoids in the evolution of the X-Men franchise that leads to the Marvel Universe. How that is, we'll get to that. I don't want to give that away right now. But the Marvel Cinematic Universe would not exist if it was not for X-Men 1, which would be fun. That's going to be a fun discussion.
Fun fact, X-Men 1 was made before X-Men 2.
Is that true?
It is.
You know what's funny about that statement? It might not actually be true.
Oh.
Oh. And I know why. But we'll talk about it later.
Is this one of those Donnie Darko time travel?
Yeah. It's definitely a Donnie Darko. Donnie Darko. Judy?
Wormholes?
What's your name, Judy?
Good.
All right, going back. Anyway, so a lot of the things that BBR Production does is we handle most industry fields in the entertainment with our hands mostly. Look, don't make jokes. This is serious for me. I need to get it out. Okay? This show, I'm going to try to do the JD to the JD. Let's see if it works.
It's going to fuel me to just be more JD.
And let's just see if it works. Just. Anyway, so I do want to say though, we deal with comedy, music, writing, you name it, we deal with it. But specifically film, television, all that fun stuff. So I wanted to talk about how the film industry works and then bring up some fun factoids of that. Proving that I don't make this stuff up by using the X-Men franchise because we're all very familiar with that.
You're using, well-known examples.
Who?
What? Tim?
What?
Bob?
I don't even know what's going on right now. How come there's no tea?
There's show.
Where's the tea? I demand. It's in my rider.
That's right. We
I get a tea every time. He is. Do you know what a rider is? Do you know what a rider is?
Rider? Like, for like an...
Not like a bike rider.
Oh, or like a motorcycle rider or a horse rider.
No one rides motorcycles. Motorcycles ride you.
In Soviet Russia?
I've seen in Julia,
Soviet
Russia, a motorcycle ride you. So, do you know what a rider is?
Explain to us.
No, I'm asking you. Do you know?
Yeah, it's the list of things that a rider calls.
No, seriously. People are definitely listening to this right now. What is a rider?
That's when I...
But seriously, what is it? No, you got this.
I'm gonna sit here.
You are sitting here. You know what the best part about you sitting there is that I'm going to look at your little tiny legs. People don't know this, but he actually puts on fake legs over his baby legs.
I do. I'm normally I'm totally proportioned, except for my legs are really about 3 inches long.
He looks like the Deadpool 2 Deadpool, where he gets his legs cut. Yeah, he just and he always basic instincts me every morning. He just I'm like, what are you doing? I'm drinking my coffee, and he just pops his leg up, and I'm like, wait, that's disgusting. And then when he wants to go around, he puts on normal size proportionate legs.
And then I just call him a racist for not appreciating my baby legs.
Which doesn't make any sense because A, I've never ran in my life, and B, I don't like white people. All right, so anyway, so what's a rider?
It's a list of...
Do you even know?
Oh my
Just
God.
get it out.
I'm done.
People, no, seriously. While you're saying this, I'm going to fix the camera. Keep going.
There's a camera.
Yeah.
A rider is a list that an artist, a performer, a entertainer gives to a venue, a production, saying, "Hey, these are the things that I need in order to do this thing."
And what is the thing?
It could be you're on set for a movie, and the actor or the actress needs requests a writer for "Hey, I need this specific snack for myself during the day. I need X amount of water. I need..."
And what happens when you don't get what's in the rider?
Oh, then you summon your demons from hell to wreak havoc.
So what you're saying is my demons from hell should be here any minute because my tea wasn't here. This is all right. That is what a rider is. But also a rider could be restrictions or additional things you need for your performance. So some people might say, like a rider that Jack Nicholson had for a long time, is he couldn't film before a certain time because he had to play golf. And he had to stop filming at a certain time no matter what because he needed his rest so he could get up in the morning and play golf. And he also had in his rider that he could never miss an LA Lakers game. So if LA Lakers were playing, especially if he was doing acting near the LA Lakers, he had the right not to go to set so he could watch the LA Lakers. So that
Imagine having so much pull, you can be like, "Listen, no, I'm gonna go to the Lakers.
I'm Jack Nicholson. So I can do whatever I want."
I mean, that's pretty accurate.
No, but he so that's a rider as well. So a rider doesn't necessarily have to be things that you get into your, but it could be like how long you work or how long you don't work. I know that there's some actresses that do that too. They say, look, I have to be out by this time so I can spend time with my children or whatever the case may be, which isn't unheard of. Also, production-wise, it could be in the rider that they say, listen, we can only film during these months because of A, B, and C. In fact, some shows have riders. So it'll tell their cast, you can't film these kind of shows or these kind of movies on your hiatus because it'll be a conflict of interest.
To what's going on.
To what's going on. Something with the Friends is that they wanted to start doing more movies and stuff like that. So they had to start working around their movie schedules instead of them working around television schedules.
I didn't know.
I don't think
Like
so.
Lost in Space from 1998.
Oh my God, that movie didn't need to be made, but I love that it was made.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like everything about that movie is great, but it didn't need to be made. Because it's a terrible movie.
But Gary Oldman did it, so it's automatically amazing.
Well, Gary Oldman's amazing in everything, including crap. Have you ever seen Lost in Space?
I love that movie.
Oh my God, Gary Oldman is
Like
in
I
that.
said, that's the best part of that movie.
Yeah. Did you also know that? Do you know who the guy who played Batman is?
Kevin Conroy,
No, the other one.
Michael Keaton,
No, the other one.
Adam West,
No, the other one.
Christian Bale.
Yeah, that one. He you know how he gets fat, muscular, skinny.
Oh, yeah. He like just goes like all in for like whatever role he's doing.
Yeah. So he asks Gary Oldman how he got fat for the movie he did about Churchill, and he goes, "Oh, it's all prosthetics." And he goes, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, it's absolutely prosthetics." He's like, "Are you telling me you didn't gain any weight?" He's like, "No, I think I lost weight because I was sweating inside the prosthetic."
That's so funny.
And that
And he had gained weight for something else, like for the Cheney.
Yeah, I think it's just called
Vice.
Oh, Vice. And he literally was like, I'm never going to gain weight or lose weight for a project again because it's a lot of work at my age, and he didn't have to do anything. And it looks, if you've ever seen, I don't know what the movie's called. I think it's just called Church.
No, it's Darkest Hour.
Oh, Darkest Hour, yeah. Amazing movie. Very, very informative. It might not be historically accurate. I don't know.
But it's Gary Oldman,
I'm
and
not
it's World War II.
It is. Is it also a war, or are you saying it's World War II?
Like it is the event of also happening to be a world war revolving around Gary Oldman.
There's a really funny joke about you got to look up what's that comedian's name?
Dan Cook.
He was in that movie with that guy. Norm Macdonald. That's right. I remembered when I saw the guy. I was like, oh, you work with Norm Macdonald. Well, good. My tea's not in. No, I'm just kidding. I don't need my tea. I'll just dry it up. So I'm just messing with him, but I'm serious. So Norm Macdonald, he tells this funny joke about. You got to look it up. I'm not going to do the joke because I'll never do it justice because Norm Macdonald's a genius. But he tells this joke about World War II and like Germany. He's like, you really gotta really be hated, especially when the world wants to fight you. You can't trust those Germans. They don't pick fights with people. They pick fights with worlds. They have two world wars. I'm obviously summarizing and throwing it all out of whack, but excellent joke. Anyway, what were we talking about? Oh, riders.
Oh yeah.
And getting fat. And
But
getting
not
skinny.
bicycle.
But it is interesting, the extremes that actors will go through, but the technology itself from the film industry allows you to do certain things like not gain weight and still be able to use the prosthetics that are used in the Darkest Hour, and it looks good. Like he looks good.
Yeah, like prosthetic, technology at this point has gotten phenomenal. Then whatever they can do, with like actual physical. Well, the first Captain America was like what? Then
Was it called Captain what?
Wasn't there like
What?
wasn't there a Captain America that was like
Oh, I thought you meant the first Captain America movie was like set in the 80s.
no like there was
I
like
know
one
it was in the
that-
70s. Oh, maybe it is the 80s. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with Captain America. It was just a guy with a red face and a guy called Captain America, who, by the way, hijacked the car. He tricked the guy. He goes, "Oh, I'm not feeling good." The guy gets out and then he's like runs to the car and steals the guy's car. Captain America. And that's why that if you've seen Civil War, Captain America, Winter Soldier, they actually reference that scene
That's really
when he
funny.
steals the truck, and he's like, "Ah, borrow it. I'm gonna bring it back to the guy." But because Black Widow's like, oh, Captain America, stealing cars now. No, I'm just bothering. But that was a reference to.
That is really funny. I did not know this.
And also,
The more you know.
There's also a series, like a series of Captain America movies or like shorts, where the guy has like this round shield that's like, it looks like half an egg, and he throws it, and the way they show it, like they throw it in the air, and it's just like behind a blue screen, a blue sky, and then like they cut back to whoever's gonna grab the thing, and then you can literally tell someone just tossed it to the person off screen. Because like the angle that it was thrown is not even close.
But it's shaped like an egg. How's it aerodynamic?
I don't know.
I have so many questions.
It's just funny because it's just like here, and the guy just grabbed it. Anyway, so X-Men. What was your first experience when X-Men? Did you see X-Men in the theater?
I think
It was 2001 or something, right?
I was high school. No, I was in junior high. 2001? No, 2001. I was in junior high. I was like 12, 13.
You were how old were you?
At least 4.
So you were like 12 or 13.
Something.
Oh, good. So when did you see X-Men? Talk about that while I respond.
Well, it came out in 2000, right?
2001?
2001.
Maybe 2001.
Yeah. Anyway, regardless, either year I was in junior high, so I believe it's, I mean, that was 20 years ago at this point. I believe I saw it in theaters. But as a kid, not really knowing too much about comic books at the time, seeing all this cool stuff that I had grown up watching the original animated TV show. I was like,
Which one?
Oh, the one from the 90s with the best, theme song for any cartoon ever other than a podcast.
Oh, yes.
What happened to the days when like kids' cartoons had like awesome, epic like intro music?
I don't know, but a lot of them were like rock songs, man.
Yeah.
But except for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
They were like the last. They were like.
Donatello does machines. Oh. Raphael is a real rude dude. Michelangelo's party dude. Leonardo leads. I don't know. Cowabunga dude. Yeah. So you're watching X-Men through Turtles.
Exactly. I was dressed as a turtle watching X-Men, singing the Swamp Cats thing.
Yeah.
It was really awesome.
Were you really?
No.
Oh my god. Did anyone turn around and go, I thought you weren't in the theater in the story?
But my initial introduction, my initial reaction to the original X-Men movie from the 2000s was that I loved it. And I thought it was amazing. And again, grew up watching the cartoon, and I was, enamored with it. So seeing a live action movie, I was just like, oh my god, my childhood. It's still in my childhood.
Oh my god, my childhood! My childhood has been taken from me, God, please come. So the last my childhood, please come back to me. Childhood, please. By the way, the best X-Men cartoon, by the way, not the value one we're just talking about, which is amazing, would have to be either X-Men with Wolverine and the X-Men, and also I believe it's on the Evolution, X-Men Evolution. Those cartoons were just great storytelling. The animation was obviously superior to the first, but the first one you can never go wrong with. I mean, it's just good. Get away from me, bud. But anyway, what was your first experience with the first X-Men movie? And what do you know about the first? Do you have any factoids about the first X-Men movie? Boring. No.
The only factoid I know is what I learned from you was that Kevin Feige.
Wait, no! Can't give this away yet. We gotta get into that. That's industry talk.
Well, yeah, then I got nothing.
You don't know anything about X-Men.
Darth Maul was Toad.
Do you know what happens to a frog that gets struck by lightning? No, what?
He turns into
the
Darth
same
Maul.
thing that has everything else. They turn into Darth Maul. Yeah, Darth Maul.
Darth.
It depends. We're not racist.
Well, it's Darth Maul.
It's African American Maul.
Well, if the lights go out, it's dark.
Well, it depends if you can see or not.
Well, if the lights go
No,
out.
because he can see. He's a frog. All right. Anyway. Well, there's a couple of things about X-Men. Did you know, in this industry, in the film industry, when you're an independent filmmaker, your brain, and I'm just generalizing right now, obviously, there are other people that don't think like this, but in a general aspect, the people I have dealt with over my 20 years in the industry, Their idea is if I make this script, I'll film this movie, I'll put it into a festival, it'll get picked up, distributed, and then, obviously I'm in the business and I'll be making tons of money. That's not necessarily how it works. And it's not uncommon, even for a major studio film, to be made quickly. So even if you come up with a script, getting that script done within the first 10 years is a milestone. Because believe it or not, the first X-Men movie script was written in 1984.
Really?
Did you know that?
I did not.
Isn't that, but when it was made, 2001.
At least it was made quicker than Spider.
Can you look on your phone and see? Oh,
No, I can't.
All right, let me look it up. Let me see when it was made. Let me
But still, that's still quicker than when Spider-Man got made.
Spider-Man took how long?
I think you mentioned it took about 20 years.
It took 20 years.
So 1984 to 2000, 2001 is less than 20. Not by much.
Well, do you know who the original director for the Spider-Man movie was?
Do you know?
It was
Peter Jackson.
No.
James Cameron.
James Cameron.
Oh, really?
And he came up with the idea for the organic webs, which they kept for the Tobey Maguire. So X-Men came out in 2000. X-Men 2 came in 2003. That's interesting. All right, so we have that down. That's interesting. But the script was originally written when the growing popularity of the 1980s cartoon, which is the one I think you're talking about, that was redistributed in the 90s. So, but I could be wrong on that. But I will say this. Did you know that the original X-Men movie does not have the original X-Men?
I did, because if I remember correctly, the original X-Men was completely different. Cyclops was not the original X-Men.
Cyclops? Wait, what?
No, that was meant
Who are you?
to be
Who are you?
inflection.
Oh. Well, yeah, but I don't take that as a question. I take an actual question as a question.
Well, I adjust in
Because I don't want to
post.
assume.
I adjust in post that was a question and that was statement.
All right. Well, Cyclops is the leader of the X-Men on the ground. Professor X is the leader of the X-Men. He's the leader, but Cyclops is basically like the field leader.
Gotcha.
Right? So he was definitely part of the first X-Men.
Yeah. Who's in the original one?
Well, who do you think is in it?
I don't know.
Well, that's why I'm asking. Who do you think is it? Like, just as a guess, who do you think might be in it?
Is Iceman in it?
Iceman isn't.
Oh.
I said I thought.
Cool.
I think it's cool. Our connection is trying.
Uh-oh. You break?
Wait.
Shot fire, that would definitely be a terrible Iceman.
He looked like a snowman. I mean, he didn't have.
Basically, Frosty was the X-Men.
Actually, probably I would say he looked more like a Visual Man, but it was just like snow. Like it was ridiculous. Anyway, the original was Archangel, but he was just Angel at the time, because he didn't have metal wings yet. Yeah, Beast. Beast was part of it.
But he did not look blue.
That's correct. He was human form. He was a human.
Wasn't he just like really big?
He was actually short, but he was really big. He was like big, but he was a gorilla, but he was human. And I think he was like a football coach or something like that. I think he worked at a school or college or something. Anyway, Jean Grey, obviously, and Cyclops. So you only had 5 people, but Wolverine didn't come until much later.
Yeah, but Wolverine starts off in Hulk.
Yeah, he's a villain. He's a villain. And originally his claws were a part of his gloves and not necessarily inside him.
So when did they make that switch?
I don't remember the exact moment, but I think when they decided to put a little bit more effort into who Wolverine was, like they gave him a backstory. They were like, let's
We'll make him cool.
let's give him some depth, But he always came from Canada, which was cool. I think that.
It's gold up there.
Who are you? No, all right. Anyway, so the original X-Men, it took a couple of years for it to get made, because But some of the fun facts about that is, did you know that they actually had Bob Costa, who's the guy from Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Oh yeah,
Bob Costa. No, Bob. He played Mario.
Totally.
Greatest movie ever.
Don't talk to me.
Was it a great movie?
Bob Hoskins?
Is it Bob Hoskins, right?
I forget the guy's
Let me see. Oh, Hoskins. Yeah, Bob Hoskins. They wanted him as Wolverine.
Really?
Yeah. They were like, hey, we should cast him as Wolverine. But then they ended up going with the guy from Mission Impossible 2, the villain in Mission Impossible 2, which is pretty common known actually. Let me see. Villain from Mission Impossible 2.
I didn't realize that he was the next guy. That...
No, he's Sean Patrick Ambrose was going to be Wolverine, and then what happened was they already started filming. This guy could not get into the movie. He wasn't able to film the movie. It was a scheduling conflict with Mission Impossible 2 because the studio had a writer saying that you can't do that. We need you for this time. So they had to switch right away. So they went to Hugh Jackman, who was actually not the first go-to pick.
Apparently, he's like the third.
Do you know who was?
But he's not the first. He wasn't the go-to pick for the backup.
Correct.
Oh, who's the?
I'll give you a hint. He was in Gladiator, and his name's Russell Crowe.
Oh, Joaquin Phoenix.
That's right, Russell. Who? But Russell Crowe was like, I don't want to do it. It's a comic book movie. And he says, you know who you should talk to?
Christian Bale.
That's right, Hugh Jackman. What was funny is Hugh Jackman was doing Oklahoma at the time. So I think he was playing, is Curly in Oklahoma? Doesn't matter. He had curly hair is the point.
There's well.
Yeah, he's like,
Lamb.
What was going on was he was doing the musical Oklahoma. And so he had curly hair and everything like that. And he was like, obviously skinny. And he wore a baseball hat so he could come in and do the audition, But he originally thought Wolverine was a made-up character, so he just studied wolves.
Yeah, he didn't know that Wolverines were an actual.
Yeah, he thought it was a made-up animal. He was like, what the hell is a Wolverine? And so he studied wolves, and Bryan Singer, the rapist, was like, what's with that look? What are you doing there? He goes, oh, wolves, they put their nose down, and he's like, why wolves? And he's like, it's
Wolverine.
It's Wolverine. And he's like, no, it's a Wolverine. Wolverines aren't a real thing. He goes, yeah, they are. And he showed him. He's like, oh my God, Wolverines are real. This is crazy. But also, Wolverine in the comic books was supposed to be an animal. Like he was supposed to. They were going to make him an animal, and then like last minute they were like, let's make him human. And then there is a comic where he loses his metal bones because Magneto like pulls all the metal out, and he turns into this like beast version of X-Men of Wolverine, and like nobody liked it. Everyone was like, "This is terrible," and they just kind of like, "It never happened."
Yep, no, it's a dream.
It's Bobby Heat. No, but what's his name? Bobby's on her own. But anyway, going back to X-Men, so he came in pretty much. They already had scenes filmed. They were already into filming.
If I remember correctly,
Yeah,
the introduction to Wolverine, like the cage scene, was done at the end, right?
That's right. They did that last because he wanted to at least put some muscle on.
Mm-hmm.
But he told Bryan Singer, "Yeah, I 6 to 12 weeks. I can get muscles." And first day of shooting, he's like, "You think we could do that cage scene last?" And he's like, "Why?" He's like, "I can't do enough push-ups to get it to look good." And in fact, that's why when Jean Grey is touching his chest in the downstairs, he basically looks like a little kid. He has like no chest, just got a couple pieces of hair. They also said that they
It's
were
penciled on.
It's penciled. Anyway, so that's interesting about Hugh Jackman. But yeah, so X-Men, the first one was 1985. But we don't realize what it takes to be in this industry. It's a very difficult industry if you have no willpower to take chances and sacrifice. Because some people might say to themselves, I want to be an actor, so I need to get lead roles. And they don't understand if you start getting smaller things within the industry,
You're building those relationships.
and it'll bring you to the point of doing what you truly passionately want to do. Case in point, Kevin Feige, who is the creator.
Are we going to talk about it now?
Yeah, we can talk about it because we had to talk about his journey. We have to talk about the journey. So the lesson is that ultimately that Kevin Feige, who runs all of Marvel's storytelling across from the comic books now to the television series, that is a reason to film and all those aspects. He's basically the overseer, and he started as a PA on the original X-Men film. That's right, and he did it for free. He volunteers some time to be the assistant to Donna. What's her name?
Donna Summer?
No. The producer of X-Men.
I do not
Let
know.
me just
Let's take a look.
verify.
Quick.
Producer of X-Men. I know that Avi something or other. Yeah, Lauren Donna. So Lauren Donna, so he was basically, he's like, let me just be your assistant. I don't care if I get paid or not. I just want to learn. And he was like a nobody on it. That's just, what year is that? That's 2000. So.
And in less than 10 years, he ended up manning the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Which is insane, right?
Because
So.
when did Iron Man come out?
Well, I think he's straight. I don't. I mean, like come out.
Like the movie. When did it
Oh,
come out?
no, the movie's straight too. Right? It's straight to the point.
I mean,
What are you talking about?
it's 2008, right?
Who?
Wow.
What?
Steve.
No, that came out probably 2008. I don't know. Let's look it up.
So in 8 years,
Yeah.
in less than a decade, he went from an unpaid PA.
Yeah, but you're missing a lot right now. So 2008 it came out. He wasn't necessarily the head of Marvel, the film industry. It was broken up into two.
Oh, I didn't know.
So
how was it broken up?
somebody ran like the television department, somebody ran the comic departments, and he was sort of like overseeing some of the Marvel cinematic aspects of it, but he wasn't
But he wasn't in charge of the movies?
not the full movies. In fact, Iron Man, if I remember correctly, was the first Marvel movie, right? And then Hulk was distributed by Columbia or something, or Universal. So, yeah. But Iron Man 2 was actually the first Disney movie.
Oh, yeah, 'cause they had purchased them.
They had purchased them. So there were. So in the beginning, he's sort of like, "Hey, we could kind of do this thing," and then they were just like, "Well, let's see if Iron Man works." And then when Disney bought Marvel, and they were like, he's like, "Look, this is what I think we could do. We could be the first to do this." And he stepped forward, and they gave him some control, but he wasn't who he is today. You know, today he's basically the Lord of Marvel. You know,
He had to have a staff.
he does not.
Oh, man, he's missing out.
Did you hear the inflection? That was a question. Or was it? Anyway,
The mystique,
the mystique,
the intrigue.
the intrigue. But anyway, so, you know, if you want to be successful in this industry, you have to remember that your qualifications have nothing to do with your wants. It has to do with what you need to work on, which is getting involved. And that's what Kevin Feige did. He just got involved. I want to be in this industry. This is what do I need to do? Let me be a nobody and just learn. And like you said, in less than 8 years, he had an opportunity to work on his biggest dream, which was, and he said he was talking about what he did with Marvel when X-Men came out, just as a nobody. He was like, it'd be really cool if we could connect the X-Men universe and the Marvel universe and blah, blah, blah. And they were like, no, that's stupid. In fact, the X-Men movie, if you look at it, A, it's not the original X-Men. B, the costumes were thrown out because they were like, costumes would be stupid. And Matrix basically, I think, just came out in 98 or 99.
99.
And they were like, let's go with the black. You know, like, so a lot of what they did with that movie, they basically, you know, changed it up because they thought, oh, let me do this.
They took an idea, but they were sticking to, you know, whatever the popular terms were, instead of just sticking to the core of what made, you know, the core elements of what made people like fall in love and what people would recognize.
Yeah, and that's the funny part is like, you know.
No, Kevin Feige, you know.
He's like, look, we just did Doctor Strange, and we just did this, and we just did that, and we did it. Like, you know, Ant-Man is dressed up as Ant-Man. You know, like they make the outfits and the uniforms make sense. You know, and even the villains have like a certain. But speaking of Kevin Feige, did you know you can actually find him as one of the Weapon X tech guys pulling Wolverine's claws out of the oven?
I didn't know.
That's he made a cameo. So, but he had a hood on and a mask and gloves, so you really, you know,
It's that one.
you couldn't tell it was him. But yeah, no. So I always thought that was interesting about Kevin Feige's story because people are always saying to me, especially clients, where they're just like, well, I ain't going to do anything unless I have the most lines or that I'm a lead, or it's not what you want. Have that as your drive.
He has like no lines.
He did that on purpose. Why? Do you know why he did that?
I don't.
Well, A, Silent Bob is who?
Kevin Smith.
Who? I didn't know that. No. All right. He's Kevin Smith, and he's the writer-director of the film. So originally, he wanted a different role. If I remember correctly, he wanted the main guy who was behind the counter. That's who he wanted to be. Dante's the dancer, isn't it? Oh, no, Dante's the 36. All right.
37.
Oh, 37. But he was like, I want to actually focus on directing the film. So he gave himself basically the least amount of lines. So he did that as a necessity to be a director, because he definitely wanted to be in the film, but at the same time, he didn't want to take away. So he ended up casting someone to do that part. But again, Kevin Smith is a great example of like, look, he just was like, I want to do this, let me do it. He took a chance, and he was in a position where he could afford to do it because he ended up, accumulating a lot of debt.
Well, he did something that you would never advise anyone to do, and he did something that he also advises everyone never to do.
Oh yeah, he all the time, he's like, don't do it. And the reason is because,
it was a crapshoot. He didn't have any guarantees, because he was just kind of,
Well, he didn't even expect this. He just made in his mind, he was like, I made the movie, I'm done, that's all I care about. He didn't have dreams of being a filmmaker. That wasn't why he started doing what he was doing. He was like, I'm going to be the greatest filmmaker in the world.
I just want to do it because it's fun.
Yeah, he's like, I want to see something on screen that me and my friends are talking about. But, his story led to a lot of great opportunities where he started writing for other people. That's the thing a lot of people don't understand. He wrote a script for Superman Returns. He wrote one of the drafts for that, which has to do with...
And he has a lot, he's like...
He had to write about a big spider. It was very, very ridiculous. Which is, and also the Superman wasn't allowed to have a cape or the costume.
What?
Yeah, and he was like, but that's
literally
who Superman is, and the producer's like, no,
black suit Superman.
Black suit Superman.
Well, if I remember correctly, the black suit is like there's like a specific reason like it does something.
Yeah, it helps heal. Helps him heal. Yeah, because that's black suit Superman was after the death of Superman.
Yeah, so he's wearing that, so he's like, oh, it's not good body cast, but it's also interesting.
And he comes back with long hair. But anyway, Kevin Smith tells you, you should have a game plan. You should, organize your money. Really, don't just take a risk. Get your stuff together, and then you can take that risk because it's calculated. And that's something I will always preach too. Have your overhead covered. Don't just be like.
And not with just an umbrella.
Yeah. I mean, because what? No. Anyway. So people out there that you want to make a run at it to be in any industry, Kevin Feige is the greatest example of becoming the most powerful and probably wealthiest guy in the film industry right now because of his success. And he started out doing it for free as a PA and an assistant. He just wanted to be involved in the industry. And we talk about that constantly on the show, just get involved. Did you know that Josh Whedon, who by the way,
Joss Whedon?
What's his name?
Joss
with 2 S's, right?
Yes.
If you look at Joss Whedon, by the way, he's really good at.
With your Bible.
Yeah, you gotta look at with ensemble characters. He's good. He Buffy the Vampire
Slayer.
I believe he did Serenity, which was called Firefly.
Yeah, the TV show with Firefly, the movie was Serenity.
Yeah, and he's really good with the ensemble stuff. That's why he's a great shows with the.
Dr. Harville's Single on Block, which is probably the best Joss Whedon creation ever created.
So he was in. He directed Avengers. No, this is very important to me. I gotta get to that. Going back. Well, fun fact about Joss Whedon. If you watch any movie or anything he does, the shots they use is always like the camera's butt height. Even if you look at Justice League, what he edited, it's like the camera's on Wonder Woman's butt, and we're looking at Batman. And you're just like, what? And then in Avengers 2, he made Bruce Banner fall on Scarlett Johansson's boobs. Mark Ruffalo. So he does stuff like that. He's basically like a pig. But anyway, fun fact about the worst line written in X-Men, and also the best, is he wrote the famous, "Do you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else," which is very funny. But he also wrote one of the most infamous lines, which is in X-Men First Class. Remember when they come in? Oh, no. In the first X-Men movie, I'm sorry. He also wrote one of the best lines where Wolverine comes in and Cyclops is thinks he's Mystique. And he goes, "Prove it." And he goes, "You're a dick." He goes, okay.
Yep.
All right.
Active.
Very accurate. Did you know that both Justice League directors turned down the X-Men last night?
Really?
Yeah, Zack Snyder was like, yeah, and also what you call it, Just Whedon. No, it's both Justice League directors. So there's more than one director, but it was because they both directed it. Yeah. Well, I would say one directed it, and the other was like, it'd be really great if I just destroyed it even more, and that's Joss.
So why did they turn it down? What is you don't like the script?
It says they declined because he was already committed to making Frank Miller's 300, which was a really fantastically visual film.
Oh yeah, that looked awesome.
I love that film, and then I've seen it 30 times, and I realized I don't actually like the film. I just like looking at it.
It is iconic.
Yeah, but the story itself is just. Zack Snyder has a problem with writing. He's a terrible filmmaker, but it's really he's a pop star when it comes to just getting the awesome views and visuals and the cinematography style. He's good with that. But why did that Jones? Oh, he was developing Wonder Woman. Oh, that's interesting. By the Wonder Woman, obviously, for Warner Brothers. I didn't know that. Joss. Now, did you notice? Do you see a common occurrence here? Do you see something that's happening right now?
It takes forever for things to get.
Yeah, that's right. See, networking is important. If you notice, the industry is very much going after a very small group of people, and the reason they do that is because once they have you in their eyes, and you can notice that through the industry of time, in the 80s, there was always very specific actors that you would see just in every movie. There's always that rotation of 12, right? And then the 90s hit, and that rotation slowly changes.
As well.
Writers and directors, and the same. So the reason a lot of the same people keep getting asked to direct certain things, or they keep getting approached, is because they build their brand value and they build their relationship value. That the first people they're going to call are the people they know.
Yeah, the people. Everyone has built an understanding that these people can get their work done. They enjoy being around these people. They like working with these people. So let's just work with these people again, because we already know what they are capable of. We already know that we enjoy being around them for 42 hours a day.
Well, they also know they make money.
That too.
At this point, Joss had Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He had.
Did he do Angel as well?
He created Angel because but also the Firefly and everything like that. So he had a track record. But he was also but he was also very much involved in that industry and with those people. And that's the thing: be seen, be present, right? So, or be present, be seen. Either way, the idea is that if you want to be successful in the film industry, you got to really get out there and be involved. And that's why the same names keep popping up.
And that doesn't necessarily mean perform. It means go out and
Correct.
interact with people, build relationships.
Yeah.
And so that's a very important distinction I think needs to be made.
That's right. You just have to. Do you know what the first, moving on, do you know what the first comic book movie, superhero movie was that had a post-credit scene?
Was it Incredible Hulk?
That's right. It was X-Men: The Last Stand. It was very good.
I was not even close.
Yeah, it reveals that Professor X has survived his apparent death at the hands of Phoenix by transferring his mind into the vegetative body seen earlier, which was supposed to be his twin brother. However, in the comics, he has a twin sister. But in X-Men First Class, he doesn't have any siblings. It's just him in the house, and he goes, "This house is very big, and you can stay here all you want, Mystique. I don't know why you're this young, because you're actually a fully grown 100-year-old woman at this point."
This is so weird.
Yeah, they changed a lot. I really like X-Men First Class, but Days of Future Past is probably my favorite X-Men movie. But X-Men 2 is probably the one that I always
And the
love.
Dark Phoenix.
That movie's terrible.
I didn't see it.
I got a lot to say about that, Steve. Did you know January Jones didn't know X-Men First Class was a period piece at first?
I didn't.
Do you know why?
Why?
Because she thought it was X-Men. She was like, oh, why would it be a period piece? But the reason they cast her is because she was in Mad Men, which is a period piece. Right? So she's like, oh, I'm going to do this movie because I don't want to do a 1960s character. And then the movie takes place in the 60s.
So weird.
Isn't that weird? That's funny, right? That's a funny fact. But anyway, what's weird though in the X-Men First Class is that they actually misspell Magneto's real name. Isn't that interesting? I don't know why they do that. You know?
Like the character's real name?
Yeah,
Eric?
yeah. They
spelled
basically forgot the H because it's Lanchier. Eric Lanchier. But they spelled it without an H, which is just no one cares about.
What's his niche?
There was also already, I don't know if you know this, but they already been an X-Men and Spider-Man crossover. Did you know that?
Like in those movies?
Yeah, there was going to be. And what happened is in Amazing Spider-Man 2, Hugh Jackman was actually going to appear in Spider-Man. But he wasn't able to because they couldn't get the costume or something like that. And then there was another thing. And also...
Well, I'm assuming that comes down to the discussion back and forth between Marvel and Sony. Sony owns the licensing rights.
They didn't. Yeah, they gave the rights though. They said because, but also the big thing was they couldn't get the costume. And there's also a theory that the Punisher is actually in Spider-Man 2. There's a guy that walks by in a trench coat like during when she's running away from the wedding and she's in a dress and she runs through the park. There's like a guy in a trench coat that kind of like looks at her. And they said that was the Punisher, but there was no verification of it.
That would have been a cool little.
That would have been pretty cool. But also, if you've seen the Amazing Spider-Man 2, which was a terrible movie,
I have not seen it. I've only seen the first one.
you may remember being confused by the appearance of an X-Men Days of Future Past scene right in the middle of the credits, even though the franchise had no relation to one another. This happened because Spidey director Mark Webb had a deal to direct a film for Fox Searchlight, which is basically the independent department. They do like smaller budget films. That was held up because of his commitment to Sony, who wanted its Spider-Man sequel. In return for Fox allowing Webb to direct that movie, Sony promoted the Viral Studios X-Men movie. Isn't that interesting?
It is really interesting.
That's pretty cool. I didn't realize that. I learned something today. No one cares.
Golf club. A little golf clap.
What?
Golf clap.
Who?
What?
Who?
Steven?
What's really funny about James McAvoy is when he got cast, they actually shaved his head. Did you know that?
Did not.
Yeah, so in X-Men First Class, he's actually walking around with a wig.
That's funny.
Yeah, because he was like, but he's bald. And he's like, oh, no, not yet. Which is interesting because he is bald. Do you know why he goes bald, actually?
Doesn't he? It had something to do with Cerebro?
No.
Oh, I don't know.
No. See, what's interesting is in First Class, they do have the character who they made a mutant, not a demon, but Azrael, right? What's his
Oh,
name?
yeah. He's a mutant.
But he's not.
In the movie.
Yeah, in the comics, he's like a demon who is also the father of Nightcrawler.
Ah.
It's him and Mystique back in medieval like Germany had sex, and the Nightcrawler was born. Yeah, you can.
Are we allowed to say that word?
They had the intercourse.
Oh.
So in this movie, everyone thought that was like we were going to see like the origin of him going bald, because it's really his battle with the Hydra. So
in
the comics.
How does the battle?
And also he lost his legs because during that battle, stuff fell on his legs, and he became paralyzed because of that. And
So what exactly makes his hair go bye bye?
well, because he overuses his power, and his power
So it
itself.
sinks his hair.
No, well, the power makes him go bald. So he just went bald. No one cares.
I mean, I care a little bit.
Did you know that there's 3 versions of Deadpool? There's Deadpool, right? And then there's Deadpool 2, and then the Deadpool, which Clint Eastwood was in. That doesn't make any sense! What is Deadpool?
So 3 versions of Deadpool.
I was just making a joke.
Oh.
Let's see, anything else?
Well, technically, there's Deadpool in the comics. There's Deadpool thinking to himself in the comics, and then there's Deadpool narrating to himself.
Yeah, but that's not 3 different Deadpools. He has personality disorder. Or actually, what do they call it? There's a different name for it because they don't call it
Split personality?
They call it something else now.
That's he was supposed to.
Very good boy. Oh, you heard us split.
Oh.
Puppy man. Oh, he's just gonna bark at the dog. That's it. Burial.
He's on Sentinel duty.
Sentinel.
Well, not like the X-Men Sentinels. He was on like that TV show from UK.
Do you remember that show?
Vaguely, I remember that the guy had heightened senses.
Oh,
He was
God.
in like Vietnam.
That's awesome.
He's like, oh look, I can see with my eyeballs.
Was it amazing?
No.
He doesn't know that there's a door there. That's my dog, everybody.
He's like, I can see through the window. Why can't I go out?
Alright. Okay, one second. Keep the audience entertained.
Hello, audience entertained.
Hey,
Topic while the dog is chit-chatting and everything. He's currently protecting us from the bad guys, which he did a really good job because they have not gotten him.
He's an amazing dog.
He really is.
I don't know if you know this about him.
You know,
What do we got over there? Oh, people watch.
a lot of people watching.
Hello.
All I can possibly do. I think
Gotta get my
Thomas Benjamin-
sponsored drink.
What happened?
Gotta get my sponsored drink.
Oh, you gotta get your sponsor drink. Yeah, we are not sponsored by this company, but if they want to sponsor us, we're totally down for this sponsorship because
Hey, puppy
Thomas
man.
really likes this.
I don't really like it. It's just I have to drink it.
Yeah, I mean,
It's my crack. It's my crack.
I mean, your blood is more Pepsi than it is, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean that's fair. So anyway, films are always going through a lot of changes. I don't know.
They are definitely. Even up to the very last minute too.
Yeah, like if you want to be a filmmaker in this industry, if you're going to work for a major studio, if you're going to work for a major studio, you have to remember you don't really have final say in everything as a creator. You know, unless
Unless you're Martin Scorsese.
yeah, then they're like, well, you want to do a 3-hour movie about an Irish guy who works for the Italian mafia? Yeah, got it. I'm like, all right, but I'm going to de-age them. What? Yeah, it's going to take place in the past. Can it take place in the past with old people? Oh,
No.
will. As they get older. All right, Marty.
Whatever, it's good. We're already making money.
Yeah, it should be good. People won't say anything negative about it. Oh my God, it's 3 hours. I watched The Irishman last month. It took me 30 days.
I just finished.
I just finished.
What's funny is that everyone had the same complaint, but at the same time, everyone's like, whatever, just here's our money.
Yeah, no, they like it.
That money made its movie back, like just announcing that they were thinking about making a movie.
Yeah, money man.
Money man.
Changing. But that's the thing, like, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, I have an idea, and it's gonna be the greatest idea, and they're not gonna, you know, affect me. But the truth of the matter is things change, even in major movies. And that's why we get a lot of moments where, like, you know, you get the behind the scenes stuff with the final Fantastic Four, the newer version of the movie that came out where the main director didn't actually have final say on the edit. The studio ended up doing an edit, and obviously the movie was bad anyway. But
Or even like the original Star Wars movie.
which one?
I think it's called The Empire Strikes Back.
Tell me about Star Wars. What do you know about it?
Well, if I remember correctly, there was the first draft, which is what Lucas wrote, and then they made changes as they were filming, and then they made changes again while they were editing.
Yeah, but the studio didn't make changes.
Yeah, no, I wasn't saying the studio. I was
Oh.
in general saying like.
Well, that's a creative thing. But what we're talking about is like a studio coming in and going, "Oh, that's great. Let me change this."
Gotcha.
Because in that case, you know, Star Wars was filmed, edited. They didn't have all the special effects in. And George Lucas showed it to Steven Spielberg and was like, "You gotta change this." And he was like, "No, I like it how it is." He's like, "I'm telling you, changes," and they changed it. But that again wasn't a studio getting involved. It was relying on his best friend, who owns, I think, 1% or 2% of everything Star. Well, not anymore, but everything Star Wars, because they made a handshake bet. So anything Steven Spielberg makes, George Lucas makes 2%, and anything that
Oh yeah, that's cool. That's why like their buddies always.
they're always there. Yeah, that's why they
And
work
that's another example
of working together.
of working together. It's like everyone, you know,
Yeah,
gets
but
that success.
let's be honest. Spielberg made out in that deal.
You made how much?
You know what's funny
I'm gonna
about
go make E.T.
Yeah, let's E.T. No, that movie was so big and it made no money. like comparison to Star Wars. Like Star Wars, he was able to finance 2 more films off the first Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, if I remember correctly,
Yeah, you do.
the Star Wars movies other than the first one are some of the most expensive independent films ever.
Yeah, well, minus the brand new ones that came out that are owned by Disney. But yeah, so basically, 5, 6, 1, 2, and 3 are all independent films. They were distributed by a company, but they were financed solely through George Lucas. However, during the first film, the studio gave him zero pushback because they were like, "We're not putting enough money into this, and we don't care. We already know it's a flop. But we want George to do this other thing that's going to make us money."
What was the other thing that they wanted him to do?
Well, he ended up doing the car. That's Tim Robbins' first movie.
I did not know that.
I actually love that movie.
I've
And
actually
I
never
don't
seen
care
that
what
movie,
people
and
say.
I really want to see it. It's always been on my list as like one of those I need to watch it, but I've never gotten to.
It's
see that.
so good, especially when the duck starts having sex with the human girl. I'm just saying. And then there's like a naked duck
Well, isn't there like Howard the Duck somewhere in one of the Marvel movies?
in several.
'Cause he's part of the Marvel universe, right?
Yes, he is. He's in Spoilerwood. He is in the collector's edition, collector's collection in Guardians of the Galaxy 1. Right. So, and then at the end of that movie, he's in. But also, he's in the second one. Right? He's in a bar, and then he's running with everybody during the final battle in Endgame. You can see him like running.
That's funny.
Yeah. No, Howard the Duck is
All right, I need to watch Howard the Duck.
it's the best. It's worse.
It needs to be on Disney Plus so we can watch Howard the Duck.
It is on Disney Plus.
It is?
Mhm.
Why are we not watching Howard the Duck?
Well, because you haven't seen real good movies in a long time. So, all right. Anyway, where are we? Oh, so movie studios come in and they go, "Hey, we're going to change this up." So the good news is if you come in as a new filmmaker or you're new to the industry and they give you an opportunity, to finish the George Lucas thing, they didn't care. They already wrote him off.
Yeah.
Because he was making American Graffiti for them, and they were like, "That's going to be the kids' summer movie." And George Lucas was like, "Look, I'll even like negate the director's fee. Just could you? I just want 100% of the merchandise."
Right.
And they were like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." So he didn't actually make a lot of money on the first movie, but he made so much money with the toys.
Well, because he also was he wrote the original script, correct?
He wrote everything, the Bible, the scripts. Yeah.
Alright, so yeah, so he ended up making money off of that. They waived his directorship.
Yeah. He got paid for the, he might have got maybe back then like 40 or 50, maybe even $60,000.
Yeah, we'll give you $20 for this space odyssey again. This is an opera.
Anyway, but going back, so if you're starting out in this industry and someone does give you that opportunity, you know what? Let them adjust your art, because honestly, if that project does well, they're going to give you a crap load of opportunities.
And they'll give you a lot more leniency because they'll be like, oh,
Yep.
that person proved themselves.
They'll trust you. In fact, if you don't know already, James Cameron, when he was filming Titanic, he kept giving up points and also his director's money because he was going so over budget. It was, at the time, it was the highest costing film. And
That was a really big, boat that they built.
well, I think they built half the boat. I don't think they built the whole boat. I think they built half the boat. I don't remember. But,
They definitely had to build enough of it to break it in half.
let's see. CGI.
And all the CG.
Did they build the full Titanic before the movie? It says here it was a massive hit in China.
Well, it's massive hit most places.
Well, there is now a full-size replica of the Titanic under construction in China.
What?
They did not build the whole boat. They built and sank a replica of the ship, but it was 90% of the size of the original, not the full size. So they built the whole boat, but it was small.
Yeah, no, they didn't build like a full boat. Like,
Yeah,
I didn't say that. I was saying they just built a really big
Oh,
model.
what did you say? Really big, yeah, but they were able to be on them. But anyway, in that example,
Insane.
James Cameron was like, look, I'll give up my money, I'll give up this, I'll give up that. I just trust me on this movie. As soon as that movie came out, keep in mind that movie was one of the first 3-hour movies ever really released. That like, I mean, there was a couple,
Other than like Ten Commandments or Ben-Hur.
yeah, Ben-Hur, and then it was like Cleopatra. So this movie, if I remember correctly, in the theaters, had a break. Like, there's a 15-minute or a 5-minute intermission or something like that.
Did it? I don't think it did. But
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it did.
honestly, my memory is completely.
Was there an intermission
No, Lord of the Rings definitely did not have a
during Titanic? Yeah, see, it pops up. Titanic clocks in at 3 hours, 15 minutes. This marks the first movie where a theater, it doesn't actually have an intermission, it says. It's just they stopped it at random times because it was that long. Yeah, I knew they would stop, because that was in the news. They were stopping the film so people could go take breaks. Because people were leaving and they were like, oh, we got it. Anyway, once that film came out, keep in mind, his next big adventure was Avatar. Like, even though he made a couple films after Titanic, he was always working on Avatar. They didn't question him at all. They're like, whatever you need. Yeah. And again, Titanic was the highest grossing film.
For a really long time.
Do you know what movie kicked it out of its first spot?
Iron Man?
Avatar. No, Iron Man didn't break $1 billion in Titanic, if I remember correctly. It was $1 billion. But Avatar beat, so James Cameron beat his own film,
That's funny.
right? I think Dark Knight got closer. And then, obviously, Avengers Endgame.
And Star Wars.
Star Wars didn't beat it.
Oh, I thought Force Awakens are. No.
No.
All right.
Endgame, then Avatar.
Oh.
Though Star Wars Force Awakens did break the domestic box office, but we're talking worldwide. Because no, and also it had the highest, it had the quickest rise to it was breaking records, but anyway. So what I'm saying is, after he made Titanic and made money, they were just like, do whatever you want. So you have to think like that as a creator, a filmmaker, somebody that wants to be in the industry, even in music. Believe it or not, bands that get signed, they don't necessarily get the freedom, say, Aerosmith gets. In fact, Ray Charles didn't get freedom when he first started. They were making him do all these things, and then they started coming to him like, we want to sign you. And he goes, great, I own my masters. And they're like, what? No one does that. And they're like, well, then you don't have me. And they were like, well, all right.
That's something that I think is crazy too. Is that even to this day, bands think that they have to give that away, to give up the right to their masters and their IPs. Like, just from personal experience, talking to people,
Yeah, tell me about it.
like the idea that I just don't understand how people who are in this industry professionally still think that that's like something that they have to do, like bands.
Yeah.
Like, just not when I first started out, like I was not anywhere near educated, but like,
Well, yeah, you were a baby.
I didn't even have a beer. And
I know, people were like, who is this?
I didn't have
Someone
a
find his
beer.
kid's mother.
Why is he tattoos? Who did this to this child? But like, meeting you and learning and studying, basically figuring out how the industry works. The concept that a artist or a band or like singer or writer or whatever would sign away the rights to their masters, it blows my mind. Like I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's some of the wealth growing assets in your life will be IPs, intellectual properties. So.
And that's why bands don't ever never have basically made money through record sales because all the money goes to the.
Well, that's the Kanye West thing going. Even though he's crazy, he is making a good point. He's like, artists need to own their masters because, believe it or not, now I know we're getting off the topic of film, but just real quick. The music industry, even though I haven't really been in it in a long time, fully, streaming is really the way that people are making money right now. But the problem is, a band is getting a percentage of what the percentages that a record label's get. So you're making even less than, back in the day when you sold an album, if it was $20, you were probably going to see $2 or $3 out of that, even though the record label's seeing, maybe $10 or $15 out of it.
Yeah.
But now, you're making what? A penny on a view?
Oh, yeah, no, it's not even.
It's not even, honestly, the only thing I see valuable about a record label right now is the extended marketing and their connections. That's the only value. But again, you could do that. And it doesn't matter. We're getting off topic.
Yeah. But it's similar to like the idea of, like someone like George Lucas who was able to do what we basically just said, where he was able to keep.
Dude, it was unheard of, man.
Yeah.
It was unheard of. What he did, people hated him. He literally created a studio. That's how much money he made with merchandise. He built Skywalker Ranch.
Merchandising.
What?
Like a real money.
By the way, Spaceballs wasn't allowed to use they weren't allowed to make merchandise.
Oh, God.
But the reason was because George Lucas let Industrial Light and Magic do their special effects, and also they had the rights to make fun of anything Star Wars. But the deal was they could not make merchandise, and that's why they make that joke. It's like real money is in the merchandise, But George Lucas, but that's the thing. George Lucas, which I tell everyone in any industry that you are, your job is to get to the point where you have the power to help other people, but also because now you can say yes and no to anything you want. You want to have full 100% control. You got to do what what's his face? He just bought all that space in Atlanta, where Tyler Perry. This guy basically for like 10 years lived in his car and tried to do his plays and did all these things, and he just was like, I'm gonna get in there. And he got to the point where now he's helping people that would have never gotten.
He's basically built up an entire studio that is a small village.
It's between him and George Lucas. You like them or not, they're doing what you're supposed to be doing in life. If you are in an industry, your job, even as a band or a comedian, your job is to get to the point where you can help other people. Why? Because if you help other people, people will notice. And people help people who are generous. And they want you to, because if you have the power to help people.
That and just helping people makes the world.
Well, yeah,
That and gravity.
That and gravity. But the thing is, like, if people see you helping someone and you have the power to help them, they're going to make sure they can continue fueling your success. Because you're the person opening doors for them and other people like them. And that's just a beautiful thing. Anyway. Going back to so getting into the industry, take care to whatever criticism or changes a studio wants to do, because once you're in, you are in. If you work on a television show or a film, and that first one, even if they have some sort of creative movement on you, if it does well, just makes its money back. Because look at Kevin Smith, his movies. You know how much money his movies are going to make? Maybe $100 million. That's, if you give Kevin Smith $30 million for a film, you know you're going to make $100 million on that film. They don't think he's ever going to make a Star Wars. They just know.
They'll make our money back.
They'll make
a little bit over.
But they keep giving him films, and they're never massive hits. But that's the thing. They like him. And he has such a, he helps so many people in the industry, and he does things more than just make films. Like I said, he writes, he consults on films. He's working on Masters of the Universe for Netflix. But it's a cartoon, But they came to him, and that's anyway. My point is, look, your first project is not about you. In fact, your success has nothing to do with you, other than you being proactive. Your success is solely based on those people around. But going back to the X-Men franchise, about changes, Captain Marvel came out, and Captain Brie Marvel. Captain, is that Brie? What is it?
Colonel Marvel?
Who? Jesus.
Colonel Spectacular.
Anyway, so
that's a weird noise that I was making.
That's a baby noise. It sounds like a baby, right? Come on, is that good?
Wait. No.
Thank you. The babies, make the noise. Anyway, so when Captain Marvel came out, basically aliens come down and and then
As they did.
Dark Phoenix was coming out, and believe it or not, after the X-Men temporarily subdue Dark Phoenix, the mutants are teleported into an intergalactic courtroom where they decree that Jean Grey must die for killing 5 billion people. Some of the races present in the hearing are familiar Marvel mainstays, such as the Kree, which we've seen, and the Skrulls, which we've seen. Leading to the trial are representations of the Shia Empire, who were allies of the Debrari, which is the alien race that's in Dark Phoenix. The movie only uses one of the many races featured in that saga. And the reason they did that was they actually changed the whole ending of that movie. They filmed it already, and they changed it to that train scene because Captain Marvel came out and basically it was the same premise. And they didn't want to. And that's where a studio comes in. Now that's the thing about Dark Phoenix. The reason it did so poorly is because the story wasn't consistent. There was no continuity. And forget the comics, not even talking about the comics, just the movie itself. Major studios can ruin a film because they're like, well, do this. And it's just like, but it doesn't make, as a creative force, it has to make sense.
A lot of films that end up having issues with them where people come in and make changes, the issue comes not from necessarily the changes, but the fact that the changes are being made without any real understanding of what's being made. So if it's just a change to be like, oh, let's just turn everyone, blue.
Yeah.
This is a Die Hard. Why is everyone blue?
Well, a big change was for Die Hard, actually, was Die Hard with a Vengeance was originally Simon Says.
Yeah, it wasn't even a Die Hard movie. But Bruce Willis was
I believe it was if I remember correctly. No, I don't think he was in it. I think it was going to be a Lethal Weapon film. Yeah, it was a Lethal Weapon script.
Really?
Yeah. And then they kind of turned it into, because wasn't it? Oh no! You know what I'm thinking of? Last Boy Scouts was actually a Lethal Weapon script. He had things in that movie that was supposed to be in a Lethal Weapon movie.
I did not know.
But then they ended up making Last Boy Scouts. But back to Die Hard with a Vengeance. That was supposed to be Simon Says, and then they ended up turning it. Which, by the way, I think that's the best Die Hard movie.
It definitely is.
I mean, I love Die Hard, the first one. Don't get
It's
me
the best
wrong.
Christmas movie I've seen.
It isn't a Christmas movie. It's a Bruce Willis movie. Shut up, Bruce Willis.
Yeah, that's
It's Christmas.
I feel like Gremlins is a Christmas movie as well.
That is. Anyway, but studios come in and they say, hey, let's change this and they change that. And some changes are good, some changes are bad, but ultimately it is a creative effort. And like all creative outlets, right, JD? There has to be some pushback, but at the same time, as long as with a studio's going to say, no, do this. And there's no creative juices, you know what I'm saying? There has to be at least let's see what we can do with that. And I think that creates some of the best collaborative artwork.
I agree.
You agree? Do you do that? Do you do that with other people?
I do.
You don't have a foot down kind of mentality?
Well, if it's something ridiculous, I definitely put my foot down.
But how do you explore the ridiculousness into greatness if you say no to the idea?
I mean, some things are pretty ridiculous.
I don't agree. In fact, some crazy ideas turned into two friends are like, hey, let's work on something together that has nothing to do with anything. And then one of the friends is like, no, that's a stupid idea. And you're like, why is it stupid? Because I don't like it.
More like, let's add 13 minutes of silence
Well,
for the rest of this thing.
But but if it was a 13 minutes of a chord with a spoken word over it, that's not silence. Would you agree or disagree on that? So one is a hyperbole. And the other one is a factual conversation that we had, and one was an oversimplification of not the truth. Just say it. All right. Did you know that Dark Phoenix was the dumbest X-Men movie?
Does it say that there?
No. No. My issue with the X-Men films is, X-Men 1 came out, right? And I don't, again, you didn't see it in the theater. I literally took off of work. That's whole
I
day.
think I saw it in theaters. But again, I was like 12.
You were a child.
Literally, my memory was still developing at that point. I also have the memory of association. Sometimes I can forget what I had for breakfast.
Well, yeah, and the creative integrity of a person who doesn't really actually want to collaborate with you. But
Yeah, that's great.
see,
Listen,
he doesn't want to collaborate with this conversation. He just like, I disagree.
I've been collaborating for an hour and 12 minutes.
Deletes it all. There's no evidence. Anyway, when I saw X-Men was coming out, I was like, let me go see it. Let me see what the deal is. And I went and saw it. I was, be honest, I was hesitant. You know, I was like, really, like, what's the big deal then? Because, you know, before then, honestly, people don't know this, but Blade came out before X-Men. But it wasn't necessarily a Marvel movie per se, but
It's because it was before they even had the idea of, you know, doing the whole cinematic universe and actually making Marvel movies a thing. There was like, oh.
And it was also R-rated. Like, it wasn't a kid's movie, you know, like.
Which is crazy because
It is crazy.
weren't they? They were like, oh, we can make an R-rated Marvel movie
Well,
from Deadpool.
no. They were happy to make Deadpool R-rated. That was all a joke. That was all.
That was a joke.
Yeah. In fact, Ryan Reynolds came out. He was like, "Yeah, you know, we're gonna have to do this as a PG-13, but at least there'll still be funny jokes in it." You know, whatever the case may be. It turned out to be an April Fool's joke. It was never. It was always intended to be an R-rated film. They said they can't make it unless it was R-rated.
Although I thought this was going back to like the pre-production. They were talking about it. They were like trying to get the studio on board. They were iffy about making an R-rated thing. This is before.
No, they were iffy about making the movie. It had nothing to do with being R-rated. They were just like, no one's gonna like a Deadpool movie. It's like
Everyone loves Deadpool.
yeah. They obviously the only film that beat it was Passion of Christ. You know, until Logan came out. I think. No. What beat it? It was another superhero movie. Maybe it was.
Did you say Passion of the Christ was a superhero movie?
No, but R-rated films. Passion of the Christ was the only movie that was made more than Deadpool, which is fun. Anyway, which is kind of like a superhero movie, right?
Kind
Right? Did you know Jim just
Jimmy Diesel got shot
like twice?
twice?
Yeah. Well,
I knew it once.
well, it was up on the cross.
because it's a giant magnet.
Not a magnet, it's wood.
Antenna.
It's
like-
wood. It's wood.
Wood?
It would have to be metal for it to be a working antenna for a lightning rod. That's it. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, films, movies, X-Men. You know what's stupid? What's it?
Yeah, it grinds my gears.
You know it grinds my gears. How do we go back to where we were? X-Men. So I was going to see X-Men, the first movie, and I was like, whatever. And I went in, knowing from the trailers, like I was like, this is
It's
gonna.
not going to be X-Men.
Yeah, it's not an X-Men movie, and I think what made me enjoy it was they had like the core, the message of X-Men, like it was there, and obviously they had some really great, you know, Ian McKellen and Sir Patrick Hewitt. They're actually they're both
sirs.
both sirs now. Cyrus. So it was really nice to see the dynamics of everything, but something that worked for me is when I went in, I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna let this be a movie. I'm not gonna really critique it, just because at this time, besides Blade, there were like some superhero movies came out, and you're just like, this is terrible, it can't be. And I thought it was a great movie. I think they did a really good job. And then, obviously X-Men 2 came out, and I was like, this is amazing. But again, you had to cancel out the fact that it wasn't really X-Men.
It was just the idea of X-Men made into something else.
Yeah, it was like an action adventure film with the X-Men that were like in it, And then the third one came out. Now, this is interesting about the third one. Originally it was Mark Webb. He was going to direct, if I remember correctly. Let me just double check that.
But there were no spiders.
What do you mean? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about spiders.
Do you know what movies Mark Webb has directed?
I don't.
Why
No. Because I don't.
not? X-Men 3.
Because through marketing, I have not built a desire to figure out what movies Mark has.
Mark Webb. Oh wow, that's good. Mark Webb did Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, but
He's a website.
he was a website. Mark Webb
He got caught.
was supposed to. I like that. I just talk while I'm doing this, so I don't have to like talk and think.
Well, we are talking about the movie
God,
that Mark did.
How about don't talk? I got this.
Yeah, I believe him.
No, who was? Yeah, because he directed First Class. Oh no, he ended up directing First Class, right? So Mark, right? Mark Webb, First Class. I think he did. Yeah, no, he. Oh my God. I wish you knew how to talk and keep the dead silence. Just go.
I mean,
We are talking about X-Men. I like X-Men.
listen, talking is not my forte. That's why I write instrumentals.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Listen, I am lucky that I can, convey a single thought
Who?
with my words.
All right.
I should just learn how to dance so I can just communicate the interpretive dance to everybody. I feel like that would be a lot more intuitive to my ability to communicate.
Dude, I think that would definitely it would work out for everyone.
Well, it would make the podcast really long because you would be talking. You would hear a lot of
Hello?
tapping and clicking.
Hello? Mark
I
Webb.
could get.
Oh, yeah. He directed 2 episodes of Luminous, the show.
Oh, and that's the thing that Bradley Cooper turned it into a TV show.
Yeah, it was good. It was good stuff. He didn't direct. Who directed the First Class?
I don't know.
Let's see.
Principal?
Jesus Christ.
Not to be confused with the substitute.
First Class.
There's also the bad guy.
I'm sorry for the dead air, everybody. I apologize.
I'm talking about the Phantom right now, which is also.
Oh, Matthew Vaughn. That's right. All right. He who eventually, I think he did Kick-Ass. So he directed Kick-Ass. And he also, if I remember correctly, he did Kingsman. Yeah, he did Kingsman. He did Kingsman.
Did just the first one?
Just the first one. But he was supposed to do X-Men 3, but he stepped out, and then like the worst direction in the world jumped in. And yeah, because X-Men 3 director, he was let's see, Brett Ratner. So you might know him from the racist
And also from X-Men 3.
movies, Rush Hour. But anyway, he came in and took over that film. A fun fact about Brett Ratner, he doesn't fly.
Really?
Yeah, he refuses to fly. Let me just double check that. Refuses.
What's his reasoning for not wanting to fly? Is he like,
Fly. Oh yeah, pops up. 6 women accused filmmaker Brett Ratner of sexual harassment. Yeah, of course they did. He leaves the industry because of the sexual. Oh God. I can't find it, but yeah, no, he's I think he's.
Is he just like, I have a fear of flying?
I think there's a few. Or is it Mark? Oh, maybe it's who's the guy who did the first Charles Angel movie? Director Charlie.
John Woo?
What? What?
There's like over the top action ratings.
Who?
No, Woo.
Who? Who?
Woo's on first.
Who's on first? Oh, Mick G. I think Mick G. Doesn't like to fly. Right? Doesn't like to fly. Yeah, how Mick G
He
turned.
doesn't have any wings.
He lost the Superman movie because he refused to fly. He has a fear of flying, and it cost him the chance to direct. Anyway, going back to Brett Ratner, Matthew Vaughn was supposed to do the third X-Men, and he couldn't because he was working on another project. And anyway, so Brett Ratner came in and filmed that terrible film. Anyway, so as like a like an amends kind of thing, they did X-Men First Class, and it turned out to be really great. And he was supposed to do Days of Future Past.
What happened with that?
If I remember correctly, it had to do with filming constraints on another project again, and then obviously Bryan Singer came in and he was like, "I'll do it," and he made that amazing movie, X-Men Days of Future. Like if you can see, there's a lot of moving around, like a lot of people, and usually Bryan Singer was like a producer on these films before the allegations came out.
He's a terrible human being.
Yeah, he decided little boys were better than human beings that were adults. But anyway, it's crazy.
I just don't understand how anyone could be so sick and I don't understand how that's even like a thought process, or that's even like how your instincts allow you to do.
Pedophilia is a sexual preference. They're trying to pass that as a thing.
Yeah, no, that's not even. No.
No kidding around.
Ah.
Well, anyway, honestly, I think if you get caught as a pedophile, and I'm not talking about like 17-year-old with like an 18-year-old. I'm talking about like
a full-grown adult, like a child.
yeah. You know, somebody that's like completely like a 30-year-old with like a 15-year-old. You know, you gotta break somebody's legs.
No, there's.
But I mean that on girls and guys.
There's
There's a woman.
definitely-
That's like,
There's definitely a process for flaying properly.
that's funny. The thing is like being a pedophile is not the same as acting on pedophilia, and I think that's where people get confused. Though, like if someone has like those compulsions, it's good to like go to therapy, take medicine, or whatever the case may be. But if they're you're like, all right, you're trying to be a part of society, but the moment you break that trust, the human trust, there's a human contract that we don't discuss. That's just like
Don't do these things.
yeah, don't hurt people. And obviously being a pedophile and doing it hurts people, and that there should be a severe punishment for that. And usually there is. When they go to jail, I mean,
Again,
they get
there's
killed.
definitely a way to properly flay people.
Do you know who the Iceman is from?
Like the hitman.
Yeah, the hitman
Who apparently used to have an apartment in Santa Monica.
in Santa Monica. When he went to jail, his brother was in jail with him. But his brother was in jail for like raping a kid or something.
Jeez.
And the Iceman was like, I don't associate with him because he's a terrible human being. That's how bad pedophilia is.
Because the Iceman's like, no.
I don't mess with that. He's not my brother. He's a terrible human being. You're like, yes, he is a terrible human being. You also are. He used to kill people to try out new methods.
When you're an artist, you have to practice your craft.
Well, I don't disagree. There's a story of him buying like a crossbow and he wanted to see how it works, so he just stopped the car in the corner and was like, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" And he shot the guy in the head with a crossbow.
That's insane.
He's the Iceman. Chris Evans was actually in the movie about the Iceman.
Was he?
Yeah, he wasn't Captain America. He was just another hitman.
Oh, that makes sense. Because I don't think Captain America would have been happy dealing with that guy.
Speaking of Iceman, you gotta watch his documentary. It's so I love it. Dude, it's so intense. The stuff that's where he says that he's like, I don't my brother's terrible. They're just interviewing him, and it's crazy. Like you can agree with everything he's saying, but he's crazy. That's the part that's crazy. Is he's like, well, I didn't kill women or children. That was one of his rules, right? But he's like, it was a job. I didn't care. I'd kill anybody.
Except for women and children.
Except for women and children. And he had like a full family.
What's crazy is the fact that like someone like that, like they have like a thought process, like in their head, there's a line of reasoning that's just like, wow, like if you listen to them follow everything, like that all makes sense. But at the same time, like there's a little thing missing, which is like you don't.
Yeah, like collaborative integrity.
Exactly.
Like you hear it, you just don't understand the insanity. It's just a solid, strong no. And he's like killing people, and you're like, it's the same. Someone's saying no without even discussing. He says, "I will kill you," and you're like, no, and he's like, "We're trying to collaborate here."
I like being not dead. I like you being dead.
No, you must be dead.
I said that.
You cannot say no.
I said that.
It's what goes on in somebody's brain that's insane to just have that confidence to say no to creative collaborations with murder. If you had a choice though, like if you like, do I murder a kid or do I have sex with a kid? I mean, like really, there is a fine line between collaborating.
Yeah, my favorite choice is not doing either one of those.
But if you had to. just choose to kill the kid. There really shouldn't be any thought about like, do I kill or do I sex the kid? No, you kill the kid. Kid, I'm doing this for the benefit of both of us. Why? Because I would rather kill you and get caught killing you than ruining your life and all by having sex with There's no other answer. I will kill the kid. So you see my logic though?
I do see your logic.
It has nothing to do with like, oh, I don't want to kill the kid. It's like, well, if I had to choose one, I'm gonna kill you because that
That is the kinder of the two evils.
yeah, you don't have to deal with the rest of your life, and I only have to deal with the fact that I killed the kid, and I'm okay with it. But having sex with you, there's that old story. Hey,
That's how X-Men the first movie was made.
which well, that's true because Bryan Singer,
Exactly.
he was having sex with kids. Isn't that insane? I mean, look, they talk about this like there's a ring of pedophilia in the industry. I think there's just a ring of pedophilia in the world, But even when like Jared,
Oh yeah, it's Subway Jared.
I lost weight eating Subway and having sex with kids. Like it's just to me like, and all he did was get arrested. And to me, I don't think that's enough.
Like, what was the final? Like, what ended up happening? He's in.
He went to jail.
Yeah.
He was actually partnering. He had a partner. There was a partner.
Like in crime.
Yeah. No, well, yes, it is a crime. So yeah, but yeah. No, let me see.
Oh my god, I don't understand how how
Jared's
there are humans that do this, and like I don't understand. Like,
partner.
and the fact that there's like a global ring of stuff like this that happens, like I don't get how, like how many, like how are there this many people that are okay with this? And
No one is okay with it.
Well, the people who are doing it are okay with it, obviously. But what's crazy is like they know it's wrong because they obviously are doing it in secret.
Russell Taylor.
Russell Taylor.
He got 27 years for child porn case. Oh no, that's Jared Fogle and Russell Taylor. Yeah. They both got 27. He was his partner in a kiddie porn center. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh God, literally.
Jesus. He calls him his business partner.
It's disgusting.
They were making. I see why they were business partners. They were producing child porn. There's a good money in that. That's just so crazy. That's crazy. I can't even. Making porn is one thing. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But child, like,
because it's a child.
Yes.
It's like we shouldn't even have to like explain why it's wrong.
Well, I think we should, so kids know like don't mess with this person. But like, common sense is. But again, remember it's an impulse. Like it's something that's messed up with their brain. They haven't developed fully into an adult. It's like the reason you find women attractive is your brain is chemically designed to do that. You especially when you were younger, you weren't like into women yet. There was a certain point where you started finding women attractive. You were developing, your hormones were developing. And for these pedophiles, which is not an excuse, but it is a sickness. It is a mental illness that their brains haven't fully developed to find adults attractive. And usually it has nothing to do with like boy or girl, because a lot of the times the child porn is like a guy interested in little boys, but they like women. Which could just mean they're bisexual, but which again has nothing to do with them being a pedophile. A pedophile is they just haven't, that piece is messed up in their head and they need help. And if they can get that help before they act on the impulse, it's the same thing like why you and I don't kill people. We might say, man, I will kill you.
We can get frustrated.
Yeah,
They have the impulse control to be like, I'm not going to act on this because I don't want to actually harm another living creature.
I see your point. I don't want to hurt a living creature either. That's why I kill them and then I torture them.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's the mercy cure. No, but like we have impulse control and they don't, and they need that. They can live in society as long as they're getting help. It's just like a person with criminals. A person that's just crazy. They can get help. Like even a paranoid schizophrenic, they could live a normalish life as long as they're getting help.
Yeah.
But as soon as they break the law, they should be
like anybody else.
Like anybody else. And the thing is, like, how do they get away with it for as long as they do? Like, it's the thing with like Michael Jackson. When you way off topic. When he
he's definitely like a comic character.
He wanted to be in Blade too. There's a scene where where they open the door, like they're looking for like the vampire, not like regular vampires, the super vampires.
It's been so long since I've seen either of those movies. I barely remember Blade 2.
Blade 2 is the best Blade.
All right, we need to have a marathon.
I own all three of them. So, anyway, Blade 2, there's a moment where they're opening the doors, and they see like a guy like working on a vampire, and that was supposed to be Michael Jackson as the doctor working on a vampire, but it was a schedule conflict. Also, Michael Jackson was trying to buy the rights to Spider-Man so he can be Spider-Man. He wanted to play Spider-Man, but he was already a full-grown man at the time. Let me just double check that. Michael Jackson.
It's insane the amount of like wealth that man had accrued, where he owned the Beatles rights. Well,
For first name. Michael Jackson attempted to buy Marvel. He attempted to buy Marvel in the late 90s so he could play Spider-Man. Jackson's vision was to buy Marvel and try to turn it into a more cinematic property. His full intention was to play Spider-Man in the movie.
I have no idea about that.
Yeah, no, this stuff I remember. Anyway, so that's the connection. It's Michael Jackson, what it means. Spider-Man. But, when he first came out that he was a child, I'm a huge Michael Jackson fan of his music. And his story is traumatic, and I can see
his
it.
ability to understand music is insane.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, you were telling me that like he would write literally everything, but he didn't play any instruments. That he would just like make.
He played some instruments, but he did everything with his mouth. Like he was just like boom, 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 boom,
But he was all
and then and what's great, his biggest skill with music, he was really good with like coming up with concepts and then collaborating with other musicians. even with being Michael Jackson, like he was able to say, you know what, that sounds like a good idea, man. Anyway,
that was like he was just warming up, and he's like, oh, that's good.
Yeah, see?
Definitive, this is what we're doing.
I like what you came up with, we're using it. See? He didn't say no. It wasn't even a thing. He didn't even work on it. It was just like, that's
good.
good.
Was like, I want to, do something else. And he's like, no, we're using it.
Yeah, because he was like, that's perfect. You know what I'm saying? You see how that works? See? Anyway, but back to Michael the Jackson. The thing with him is like, again, his brand was so powerful that people were like, there's no way he's doing that. Because they had such a trust in what his message was, that the first time it came out, people were like, all right, I understand why he paid him off, because he didn't want to go to court, drag it out. It cost too much money.
I got him like the second time.
How many times did he actually, all right, I have to look this up, because
Definitely a lot.
there was a certain point where I was like, he's a child molester. If you get sued for sexual harassment, and you, like, out of court,
multiple times,
you're like, maybe it was a misunderstanding. Yeah. Like 13 times, you're like.
Yeah, no, like, there's definitely something that was going on. Right. I mean, I personally don't have like the details of like this specifics because I don't think anyone other than the people who were involved really have that. But the fact that it happened so many times, there's definitely something.
Dude. All right. First of all, for context, as Cat Williams wonderfully said, is if you come to my house, it's gonna be like lady stuff, like nice smelling candles, lovely colored towels. They're gonna feel sexy and sensual because I'm into women. I want women
to feel comfortable.
Yeah, I want them to come into my house, and I want it to be. I'm trying to have women like me. But if I was into, say, I don't know, boys, I might build an amusement park in my house.
Makes sense.
Right? With that said,
and
have a petting zoo. With that said, Michael Jackson, December 18, 2003, comes out that Jackson was charged with seven counts of child molestation and 2 counts of administering an intoxicating agent for the purpose of committing a felony. That means he got up drunk with rum and stuff. Holy crap. On January 16, 2004, I remember this in the news. The day of his arraignment, Jackson climbed on top of his car to dance and wave to fans. This is crazy. Yeah, there's no way he didn't. He's a child.
That's...
Holy crap. In 1993, child sexual abuse accusations against Michael Jackson. There was more
Yeah, no,
So there's a 13-year-old kid.
there's at least a dozen cases is what you're telling me.
Dude, this is crazy. This is great. I knew there was a lot, but I just. Anyway, this is the problem with child molestation is Michael Jackson's like, hey, can your son sleep over? And you're like, it's Michael Jackson, yes.
Keep going.
Like, yeah, I want Michael Jackson. Yes, my son can stay over there. And you're like, what did you do when you hung out with Michael Jackson? And they're like, I played tickle games, And you're like, what?
What's a tickle?
Tickle games, And you're like, all right, whatever. And you're like, I gotta get out of this situation. Your job as a parent is to protect your kids, but at the same time, that's the thing. That's why they get away with it. It's like it's unfounded. Like, who would think? Oh, my kid is hanging out with Michael Jackson. What's the worst that can happen? He's Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And then it's just it's bizarre how.
Look at the money.
But again, it's fear. It's their kids. They who would believe me? The adult. It's the same thing with rape, where a lot of the women, they feel like they don't get heard. Even men are like, I can't say I got raped. I'll be made fun of. No one will believe. They'll be like, hey, you got sex, right? And it's like that's being raped by a woman. But even in prison, if you get raped by a man, you're not gonna come out and be like, I'm raped by a man. And you should. Absolutely, 100%. No matter what the case, even if they say no, because even though that's the worst thing to be told is no, and not being heard or understood in that situation, no is probably terrible, right?
I mean, yes.
Anyway, but back to being serious. The idea is any allegation, at least look into it, even if it ends up being fake. But again, the problem is it's that dynamic. It's like, well, how can I come out and say this happened? There's so many barriers, and it should be, and that's why we should be able to talk about it. Whereas earlier, it's it should be common sense, but it's not, and that's why it should be look, these are the signs you look for. These are the things you should really be, cautious of, especially in filmmaking, because you go in for that audition, and you get a Harvey Weinstein situation where it's
which is insane. The fact that the fact that nobody spoke up.
Oh, people did. And they lost jobs.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is there were people that knew what was going on and no one spoke.
Dude, there was people who knew what was going on with Bill Cosby, but no one believed them. In fact, the guy, the guy that looks like this, and he was in Police Academy and
oh yeah, Bobcat.
Bobcat had been talking about it for years before it was even a thing. Oh yeah, there's conversations with Howard Stern with Bobcat, where he's like, oh no, Bill Cosby. These are rapists. And but again, no one, Bill Cosby with his brand, there's no way. He's America's father. And he's this show's about home. But then it comes out, it's true. And you watch his show and you go, holy crap, it was right there. There was stuff that was going on in that show, the innuendos, that was all right, this guy's there's another movie that he did with, what's his name? The guy that won an Oscar, one of the first males to win an Oscar, Sidney Poitier. He was for Look Who's Coming to Dinner. Whatever. Anyway, they did a movie together. They did a lot of movies together actually, but there was this one specific movie. He was like, "Do I have permission to use my secret weapon to get the women to like me?" And Sidney Poitier's like, "Of course you do," And but at the time, you think he's talking about his mojo, He's like, "Could I use my mojo?" But it comes, no, he's a rapist, So in this industry, again, part of the idea is that you're supposed to create the ability to say yay and nay, or create that power, learning that the industry isn't going to work on your time, but there is a method of getting to that safe level. Because if you're not in need of saying yes, meaning I have to pay my bills, so I need to get this gig, I need to get this work. You know what? Part of my integrity will be gone. Here's a good example, and I love Salma Hayek. I think she's done a lot for her community, for the world of acting, for women, for Hispanics. She was amazing in Desperado. She was in that. Oh yeah, she was. Yeah, for president. But anyway, she wanted to make Fredo. right? Is that what I'm
Oh,
saying?
Frida.
Frida.
Frida. Wasn't Frida Kahlo.
And I believe Edward Norton and her were dating at the time, and I believe he's a producer on it, but I could be wrong on it, but they were definitely dating at the time. But Harvey Weinstein produced it, right? Like his studio gave them the money, whatever. And this is the problem, okay? There was a scene, there's a lesbian scene in that movie, and Salma Hayek didn't really want that scene in there because it was already implied that she was bisexual. It was implied that she was with other women. I mean, she was dancing with women. She was kissing women.
She didn't want to be, like there was no point to tell her.
It was no point to that. Yeah. In fact, the scene he said you had to, because she's come out later, obviously after, but basically she had to make a fully nude lesbian sex scene in the movie, right? And she's like, I don't want to do it. And he's like, well, then I'll just pull the funding. And then she's like, fine, I'll do it, right? And then he came and hung out on set and watched them film it, right?
It's insane.
That's insane. Even Salma Hayek, I apologize, Salma. Miss Hayek.
We love it.
We do love you. You're amazing inspiration. Even at that height of her power, she still had to say yes against her integrity to do something she was passionate about because there's somebody in control. And honestly,
which is insane that that's even a thing.
But it is a thing. It's a thing on all levels. Even as a band or a comedian, some comedians, dude, I know stories in the back ends of the comedy world where girl comedians want a gig and they would have to blow the host of the guy who produced the show.
Dude,
and that's insane.
I would not be able to deal with
you can't. But you know what? They're like, well, I need my 15 minutes up there, and they're just, and you're like, you can say no. Like, no, this is the business, and it's not. For the industry to change, you have to become the change. You know what I'm saying? In fact, BBR Productions is doing the film festival. We were just filming the intro for the festival because it's all going to be on YouTube because COVID. Yeah, COVID is. So we're trying to at least keep the community alive. But one of the things we were saying is we're doing an awards ceremony. And we're not doing best actress or best female director and best male director, best actor.
We're doing best actor.
No, best performer.
That's right, best performance. Yeah.
So another thing we do is with blind casting. Yeah, everybody is equal, except obviously cats are not as cool as dogs. But I do love cats. But cats do run hotter than dogs, and that's why they're not cooler than dogs. It's you can look that up. It's probably not true. Anyway. But my point is, little things like that, no matter what level you're on, if you can have that kind of control to be the change you want to see more of, don't fall to the, well, that's how it is mentality.
No, you become the change you want to see.
You got it. And that's why we did the blind casting, which is basically we just cast whoever's right for the role, girl, guy, whatever nationality, whatever their religious beliefs are. It's just like, you know what, it's just context and words. It doesn't, who they are doesn't really, indicate.
Is this person able to portray the soul of this character?
Yeah, the emotional context of that character.
That help move the narrative.
Exactly, and ultimately, with the awards, we're like, when I watch the Oscars, I hate that they go, all right, here's the best actress, here's the best actor, and it's like, why don't you just put them together?
It's the best performer.
Yeah, they're all working together. I don't think an actress performs any differently than an actor, and vice versa. Or there's some female actresses that come out and they go, do not call me an actress, I'm an actor. And I agree with that. Actor isn't a male dominant
a nurse
pronoun.
is not, boy nurse, girl nurse. It's just you're a nurse.
Yeah, all nurses are girls, right?
Nurse? That's a title for nurse.
Is it? Oh, like rhinoceri? Is it nieces? Is it renices? How many renices do you have?
Nephews?
Nephews? How is a bunch of nieces? Oh, it's pronounced nephews. What? What happened? Anyway, but yeah, so you have the power now to become that change in the world. And the way you interact with the industry, the more no's we give the industry, the more it has to change. That's just the reality. There's a contract that and honestly, I can't remember the the slogan for it, but there's basically a mission for like film sets. I think maybe it's 20%. I don't know. But anyway, it just means that like a percentage of your cast and crew should be X, Y, and Z. Like it just should be like for diversity. It's for diversity. And I agree on that, but I don't think there should be a rule, like a contract. I don't think you should be forced to do the diversity. I think you should choose to do the diversity. And I'm not saying that like, well, you should also choose to not do the diversity. Like, I think the change has to come from us choosing to do it, because then it becomes a habit. It becomes our truth.
Whereas if it's like, if you force someone to do something, it's just, you invite people to give pushback. Whereas if you just choose to do something, it's like, oh, I'm emotionally choosing to do this because I feel like I need to do this, as opposed to, oh,
Yeah,
you told me to do this.
and you're more emotionally involved in it. You're like, this is what we want to do.
Yeah.
But there are some, like, for example, when we created the circle, we specifically were like, there's going to be 6 men, there's going to be 3 female and 3 males for the leads. But that was a conscious decision, not because we wanted 3 female characters and 3 male characters, but we wanted to have a split diversity for storytelling, to prove that it doesn't matter that they're male or female, but like their stories are all equally strong and they all have a purpose and they all.
Especially the guy who works out.
That guy's the weakest character, when it comes to being physical and emotional and stuff like, sort of like Homelander on The Voice. Even the creators say he's the weakest character because he's so emotionally fragile.
I just love how as the show goes on, you just see him get like tweak here and tweak here. That show really I was very surprised at how good that show is. Like,
I wasn't.
Like I had seen it and I was like, oh, this looks like it's gonna be interesting. But like watching it, I'm like, it's so like emotionally believable. Like each of those characters.
It's definitely better than I thought it would be, like you're saying, but I knew it would be good. I just didn't know how good it was going to be that good. I knew I was going to enjoy it, and I knew it was going to be better than True Blood. But at the same time.
I also like the fact that a lot of it was very tongue in cheek, with like them being like extra aware of what they are, like the whole superhero thing.
Well, yeah, and they did a knock on Joss Whedon on one of the episodes where they were filming something, and Homelander's like, hey, I like these new rewrites Joss did. But like it was a knock on the Justice League thing. Because it's supposed to be the Dawn of the Seven, which is a play on Dawn of Justice. But going back to the industry and what was nice is like you do have that power, and it's the same thing in the music industry where people are like, well, pay to play is what you got to do. It's just how it is. And it's like, yeah, it is what they have to do, but you can say no. Well, I want to perform. Well, then go perform. Well, I can't. We'll rent the theater. We'll rent the club. I can't. Well, most clubs will give it to you free. Why do you got to do some? For promoters, says you have to pay to perform. Don't. Well, then I can't perform with that major band. Yeah, you can. How? You reach out to the band, or you reach out to who supports the band. You say how much to get you to play the show. You find out how much it is, and then you go, all right, we got to put that money together. But the difference is now you're the boss. You're in control. It's your show, and you're going to make the money for that show over the expense instead of being a band that pays for that expense. Most bands won't charge you more than $2,000 or $3,000, and they'll still be a big draw band. But then you say, well, that's a lot of money.
If you go for like a smaller mid-level size act, you can even pay a lot less.
Oh yeah, but
It's just crazy.
But like if you can get a venue that's gonna like Patrick Theater, like it costs $2,500 rent, and that's 1,000 seats, right? So if it's $2,500 plus, let's say a $3,000, like if we booked Iced Earth there, that place would pack easily, and that band's gonna ask it. It has a huge draw, but that band's gonna charge you $3,000, maybe $5,000 the most, right? So now you have $500, $600, $7,500. Okay, so let's just say tickets are $20 a piece. What's 20 times 1,000?
No,
$20,000.
that is definitely 20 grand.
You just made
A lot of money.
$1,250. The $12,500, right? So you just made $12,500, and you get to play that show. Now, how do you get that money?
And you could also be here than this and pay the other bands fee for them.
You don't have to put any other band on. Why do you gotta put another band on? You should, but why do you have to?
I'm just saying, you could do
And
that.
but that's what I'm saying, you're in control. And you could say, you know what, I'm gonna have my friend's band play. And I'm gonna pay them a little bit, right?
Right back to the whole idea of
Networking, building relations. But the other thing about that is, well, where do you get that money? Well, when are we gonna get $7,500? Well, there's a couple of things you do. But the first is maybe partner up with 2 other bands. So if you have 3 bands altogether, right? Plus the headliner, that's 4 bands. That's probably a 3-hour show,
if you're
maybe a
gonna,
2.5.
but something else you gotta keep in mind is like if you're gonna, book a band, a touring national band, it's gonna usually be a package. You're gonna have like,
Not if you book them personally. Like if you go, hey, I want you to do my show. Like for example, if you're doing a festival, you don't book the package.
But yeah, no, that's.
So that's what this is.
But the
scenario.
festival in that situation would be the package. But it's just usually like a 1-day thing or like a weekend.
It's a 1-day thing, but what I'm saying is like, Ice Earth isn't gonna come and perform the show you're booking them to perform. Like you're reaching out, hey, will you play this show? They're not booking a tour and they go, hey, for us to do the tour, it's gonna be this, right? That's why it's also a little bit more. But anyway, my point is, if you have, let's say the 3 bands, each band has say 4 people in it. What's 4 times 3? That's right, 12. You're really good at this actually.
See?
Your math is quick.
I don't even have to say it.
Right? So let's just say 10 just for easy. So what's 10 divided by 7,500?
Divided by 7,500 or times 7,500?
No, divided, because we have to divide it between 10 numbers, right?
Oh, 7,500 divided by 10.
Yes, what is that? What is that? $750.
750.
Right? So it'll be a little less than that if it was 12 people, right? So if each person came up with that money, not to spend it, by the way, just as a reserve, you put that into what's known as starts with an A. When you buy a house, it goes into escrow. So it starts with an E. I mean, they're vowels. You put it into an interest-bearing escrow account as a partnership. You go, look, let's all cover the cost of the show. We know we're gonna have to spend $2,500 on renting the place, right? You might even want to just call it an even 10 grand, so you have another $2,500 to market the show. But
A little bit extra.
So a little bit extra. So let's just say each band member has to put $1,000 in.
Right.
Okay? Right? And you're like, but you're not technically spending. You're spending the $2,500, which by the way, you only have to give half down to rent the place until the day of the show, right? You put a deposit.
Yeah.
And then you have to spend at least that $2,500 over the course of at least 3 months to market that show, right? So what's going on is everything's in escrow. So not only is that money accruing an interest, even if it's small, right? But you're not spending that money. It's just there just in case what happens. The show doesn't sell out.
Just
Hypothetically. So if the show sells out, not only do you get your original investment back because it's not spent, but the show itself pays
for the next one.
No, it pays the artist that came, the band, Iced Earth in this situation, right? And then you all get your money back for that $2,500 or whatever the difference is, right? And then whatever's left over, you split 100%. You go, hey, let's split this evenly. Or in this situation, since you made $12,500, and you go, it costs us 10 grand to do this show. You can say, why don't we put 10 grand into a event account? We'll create a business, and now we don't have to front that original money ever. And we go, we can afford a $10,000 show, and that includes X amount. We have to at least do this for marketing. We have to do this for that, right? So what did you just do? You just created a business, an opportunity. And most bands go, no, I have to do that show. I got to spend money for my band. My band needs to be seen in front of that major national act. So I will spend $500 to $1,500 for my band alone to play in front of that show, even though no one gives a shit that I'm on that show. They only care about the major act. In fact, they're not even going to show up until the major act's going on. But
the major act is probably not even hanging out in the venue.
Oh, they don't even care.
So like, oh, I'm not on the bus. I'm gonna go run around until I have to be on stage because oh my god, I'm not sick.
yeah, but if you booked that show and you rented Patchogue Theater and you got Iced Earth, iStart's gonna hang out with you.
Yeah.
They're gonna be like, oh, you're the person who ran the show. Oh, you're all doing this? That's awesome. That's inspiring. So
There should be a
let's say,
hotel.
I don't. Anyway. But do you see the difference between making a change and creating effort versus just falling back to the whole like, well, that's how it is, and that's not how it is. And it's the same thing with film. You know, when a filmmaker goes, I'm going to spend my own money to make a film, they're going, that's how you have to do it. That's not how you have to do it. And they're like, well, I can't get investors. And it's like, well, how about you front the money to get started, or at least in the movie industry, if you have, I believe it's 50% to 75%, depending, you can start filming. You're allowed, the studio will let you start filming, knowing they're going to get the rest of the money. At least you could start, pre-production. But if you can cover the initial money, if you're like, I have to do this, just cover the initial money, still try to get investors, still try to create that, the return on that. But the other thing is, if you're going to get an investor, right, maybe you should have that money fronted anyway. Just in case the film makes $0, you can give the investors their money back. Now, what does that do for you?
It shows that you're able to, give back the money that was invested.
Yeah, they go, oh, I made my money back at least. That's all I care about. And then you go, I have this other, I'll invest in it.
More people, the people being more
More inclined, right? So,
which is crazy because it's like we personally have spoken with people who are like, oh, I want to share my potential investors.
oh yeah, this ain't my film.
Yeah, and their concern was, well, if they invest money into one project, they're like, oh, I'm not going to want to invest in another one. And in reality, if the first project makes money, they're going to be like, oh, what else do you got? Take more.
But it's worse than that. A majority of the people that we talked to, they said, oh, well, I only invest in my films because, like, if I'm not going to really have, like, a chunky role, it's not worth it for me. And you're like, that's why you'll never hear from us again. We have to become the change we want to see, and we can't interact with that mentality, with that discouraging teamwork. In fact, just like a band, if you're making a film and you have like 15 people working on that film, or even 20 people, and each person puts $1,000 into an escrow account while they're trying to raise the investor money, at the same time, you're basically doing the same thing. But you have to find people that are willing to believe in what you're doing. And you never should do something to make money. Like, that show isn't really how you're making money. Like, you shouldn't be like, we're gonna make $12,000. You're not making $12,000. You're making enough money to reinvest it into another opportunity. And really, you're only making $2,000 on that night. But you got to play in front of 1,000 people. You got to play in front of the cup. You got to make friends with Iced Earth. You got to blah, 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 right? So there's a lot more involved. But if you're just like, well, we made $12,000, let's call it a day, that's not how a business runs. And the same thing, I believe you were talking about it on another radio show. It's like Metallica isn't going, oh, we made $4 million. They're going, all right, what is the expense? How much did the company make? Let's pay ourselves a salary and dividends, right? So you as a business, as a filmmaker, a band, a comedian, a writer, anybody, you should really be organizing your business, because that's how the industry works. It's like, you don't grow on taking calculated chances that have no calculation to it. Like, you can't just be like, well, this is how it's done, I have to spend this money. And it's like, no, that's not the process.
I feel like the better choice would be just to take it all, like, don't put it in any account, get all your money into bills in your hands, and then just throw it up in the air.
You mean a indecent proposal it? Wee, I'm indecent proposaling it. I'm gonna lay in the bed naked.
Yeah, so the X-Men.
You know what? That's pretty accurate. And going back to the X-Men.
I am feeling the urge to pee.
Why'd you go pee?
I think
Right.
we're
Yeah.
about the time.
Oh yeah, no, it's what is it, 5 o'clock? Yeah.
Yes.
Let's call it a day. Anyway, so I don't make this stuff up.
No, I don't make this stuff.
I mean,
Imperial sometimes.
you make it up more than I do, though. I'll be honest. I've heard you talk to people. How does marketing work? You have to have a good brand. Why? Because a brand is important. But why? Because you should be marketing your brand. I feel like, does this guy BS me? What's going on over here? I think you're making that up. By the way, he's not making it up. That's 100% true. You should be marketing a brand.
Because that's what people connect with.
That's what people connect with. However, but you have to be able to. You have to break it down. You have to be like, let me articulate myself. What is the value?
You have to get very early 2000s metalcore to have that breakdown.
What do you mean? Is this like a? Did you just wait? Let me Let's work on this creatively.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, we gotta get out of here. We gotta go.
I got that.
Yeah, thanks for being around. Oh, great! Really? Are you gonna you gonna urinate everywhere this time? By the way, can you pee
I'll
on the
try.
seat this time
I'll
instead
try
of
to
in it?
get in.
We have a seat, like a heating seat. You have to pee in it every once in a while, so it's more.
I'm looking at maybe.
You should.
People listening to it right now on just the audio.
It's making me nervous. Anyway, why are you peeing right now?
And good night, everybody.
All right, I'm Thomas J. Bellezza. This is JD McGibney. You can check his stuff out at makearightlefthear.com.
And you can go to Thomas at
Makearightlefthear.com.
unreaddragons.com.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, you can check out Europe at alchemy.com.
yeah, and that's spelled P. Oh, no. And also BBR Productions. By the way, by the time this comes out, it'll be literally the first day of the festival.
Oh yeah.
This
Wow.
Thursday will be October 1st. And the festival runs October 1st through the
Look at that.
31st.
So technically we're in the future right now, but we're also in the present when they're listening to it.
When does that happen?
When will then be now?
Now. Soon. We are in the now, right? Anyway. All right, let's prepare to end.
Ready? I thought.
Wait, no, preparing to end.
Preparing then.
Preparing to end. Prepare again. Okay, and bye. Yes, to get the last word every single
Oh
time.
God, I just like going quick.
All right, that's it. We're done. We're out of here.
I do.
What are we having for dinner tonight?
I don't know. I gotta pee.
Any questions from our audience? Anyone out there? I got a couple more minutes before I'm going to close this up. If you have questions about the content of what we talked about, let me know in the comments below. However, if you have questions about everything you've seen in this video, feel free to leave comments below, and we will answer the comments with any form we can. With that said, with no further interruptions, we're out of here. Thanks. Thanks for checking out the behind the scenes, and we'll look for you next week, Sunday, 3 o'clock. Bye.